for two special people that are deeply ingrained in our community. For a long time, the police department has had a program in place for a police chaplain to be available to provide spiritual, emotional, and counseling support to the members of the police department and the members of the community. However, the position has been vacant now for a number of years. When we first started it, it was a great program, but we got sidetracked for a little while. Recently, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we've rekindled our relationships with a lot of our faith-based organizations in the community, and two in particular have stepped up and really provided us with a lot of support and kind of gave light to the fact that we believe that there's a lot of benefit in having this position filled in the police department, and it would be a great thing for the community to get this program back up and running and revitalized. So we, as most of you know, we had a food pantry here in Bernardsville that's still active. But what you really don't know is, I think, is all the details of a lot of the work that went into making this viable and a really great resource for our community. Beth and Dan both. Beth is the priest in charge at St. Bernard's Church, and Dan is from Camino de Fe Church in Bernardsville, and they were both instrumental in our community support plan for providing food resources and a community mass feeding plan for the borough during the COVID-19 emergency. So we'd like to recognize the fact that at the end of 2020, they were appointed both as our police chaplains, not only to provide spiritual support, help, and assistance to the police department and members of our community when they're needed, but also to work with us going forward as a way to connect with the community, identify special needs in our community, perhaps connect more closely with an underserved portion of our community that are members of both of their parishes and other parishes in the community as well. So I just want to say thank you, Beth and Dan, for taking this on. We've talked at length about this. And going forward, we will obviously work to fine tune exactly the types of things we'll be doing and some of the programs that we'll be involved in as we move forward into 2021. I don't know, Beth, would you like to say something?
Sure. Thank you so much, Chief Valentine, and to the Borough Council. We were so grateful that we were already connected to the Office of Emergency Management, which Chief Valentine coordinates. I still remember our December 2019 tabletop exercise that many people participated in, and the parish house at St. Bernard's, which was built and opened in October of 2018. The parish always intended it to be used for the community, as our original parish house was over its long history. So we were always on deck to be a resource, and Pastor Dan Fenko of Community de Fe Lutheran Church and Sama Habibi, who was at the time co-president of the middle school HSA, approached St. Bernard's about the possibility of it being the site in town for, initially it was a 1 week long food pantry over spring break, but we certainly wanted to continue it. And I will say, having served in Bernardsville for the past 5 years, it was a real blessing not only to see the Office of Emergency Management at work and the level of preparation and coordination and organization that already existed that really helped us get off the ground, but see the real benefit of small towns because we could coordinate one effort. And we worked with so many congregations and volunteers and other groups like the YMCA. And Pastor Dan continues to do a lot of the leadership as we are supporting families, grocery shopping for families who have COVID and providing diapers and monthly meals and ShopRite gift cards. But it really was gratifying to see how much generosity exists in Bernardsville and Basking Ridge and the Somerset Hills area, including among people who are in need of resources. We have a lot of volunteers who came from the community that also need a meal or groceries. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to continue to build on these collaborations through serving as a police chaplain. and just grateful for the community policing that exists in the borough.
Thank you, Beth. Your efforts are greatly appreciated. Dan, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Chief Valentine and the council for this appointment. We believe that we need to love our neighbors and to care for them. And so we're a church always looking for the need in the community and being able to network with different organizations. And this has been a great opportunity for us. The pandemic, in so many ways, don't take it the wrong way, but for us, the pandemic has been a blessing in disguise, because we were able to bless so many people and help so many families and continue to help so many families. And to be able to see the community come together and say to me, of course, and I want to help because they are my neighbors. And so we're building a stronger community, and I'm so happy to be part of this community. So thank you.
Thanks, Dan. We look forward to working with you. Before we move forward and show you the resolution plaque that we have for you, I just wanted to ask Dr. Hammond if you wanted to say something. I know you work very closely with the Office of Emergency Management and Beth and Dan as well when we facilitated the food pantry. I mean, as did the mayor and other people as well. But is there anything you'd like to say, Jeff, Dr. Hammond?
Well, thank you. I'll be brief because I think you've covered most of it. I think the food pantry was representative of the best of us. It was what makes small town America great. I just want to thank you for putting together the police chaplain position, because I think that'll serve both an outward facing into the community and an inward facing into our police department need. So I think the time was right, and I'm very happy you did this.
Great, thank you. Anthony, do you want to show the resolution? Can you put that on the screen for us?
Sure, I'll cut that right up there right now.
Okay. So obviously Beth and Dan are both going to get one of these plaques that we prepared. It's just a framed copy of the 2020 resolution that we did in late December, where we appointed Beth and Dan as, where the Borough Council appointed Beth and Dan as the police chaplains for the Bernardsville Police Department. So I know it's kind of hard to see on this format, but it's a small token of our appreciation. If you can go back to the camera view, Anthony, I'll just do something else.
Sure.
So I'm going to try to do this here. Let's just pretend now that we're going to be pinning this police chaplain's badge on you that I'm going to give you later this week when we meet. If you can see that. Okay, we'll teach you how to use that and wear it proudly. And, you don't have to be at risk of me hurting you tonight and sticking you with a pin. We'll just do it this way. Okay, so we'll get you this as soon as we see you. And thanks again for all your support. We're really looking forward to working with you in 2021. So have a great night, and thank you for joining us. Mayor and Council, thank you for helping us to facilitate this tonight. And I think it's going to be very good for our community moving forward. And it's going to do a lot of good for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, Pastor Dan and Reverend Beth, you're not allowed to make me cry in my first meeting where I'm in charge. But I'm starting to get a little teary-eyed thinking about all the people that you helped, people I know personally who I can't even say, you said it perfectly. You love your neighbors. We all love our neighbors. And that's when you stepped up. The going got tough. You guys realized what was important and you made it happen. And the police department, I know you aren't a bunch of warm and fuzzy guys all the time, but this really was an example of how a community can pull together and really amaze. I mean, most neighbors are in amazement that, I remember the first line driving past and seeing the line as I was dropping my daughter at school and saying, this need, thank God for them. Thank God for you guys. Thank God for Sama Habibi for really not backing down and just taking taking control of that situation. So thank you.
I think we're pretty warm and fuzzy, but we're working on
You
it.
guys are warm and fuzzy. You won't admit it.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're moving on now to the open session. And this is for items not on the agenda.
We have approval of minutes, I think, before
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry.
That's
Sorry
all right.
about that.
That's right.
Approval of minutes. So for December 23rd, December 28th, January 4th, and January 11th, do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Just real quick, was I there for all of them? Do you know? I think I might have missed one, but I can't remember. It seems like last
You
year.
can still vote if you missed,
Yeah.
as long as you read
You can
them
still
and
vote.
reviewed them.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll move that we accept the minutes.
I'll second.
So voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. So now we're on to the open session. Okay, so the open session is for items not on the agenda. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question during the meeting, please raise your hand using the Zoom, because we're on Zoom, so you can click on, depending on what you're using. I do see one hand raised, and it's, yep, so it's on the side of your screen there. So you can also submit or via email your questions or comments to the Borough Clerk at asoriano@bernardsvilleborough.org. And written questions or comments must be submitted by noon the Wednesday preceding the meeting. Spoken comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Any written questions or comments received prior to noon on Wednesday will be read or summarized on the record after all spoken comments have been made. So you will see Anthony will be the timer. Our clerk, Anthony Soriano, will hold up the time for you, and we'll go on and listen to Johanna. So
Hi.
you'll just introduce yourself and state your address.
Yes, Johanna Wissinger. I'm on Washington Corner Road. And I don't know if this is on the agenda. I'm concerned about, and I want affirmation, some kind of assurance that Washington Corner will be paved this spring finally, and that it will be paved in the best correct manner. I know I heard some concern about the cost. I have an idea of why it costs. So what I'm asking is if there are any of the council members who do not feel comfortable in assuring that this is going to take place, then I would like an opportunity to persuade you otherwise. If this is going to go forward, then I won't spend your time, and I'll be happy to reaffirm that I have confidence in the decision-making of the members of this council. So is it all right if I ask that? And do you want to hear why? I think this definitely needs to be paved soon. It's been waiting a long time, and why I think it should have the full expenditure of why it's necessary to do it.
Yeah, I think, Joanna, I think we have a grant for
Yes.
Washington Corner to be paved. So it will be paved. I think the question from the resolution last time of 21 was that it was around because it was the way the resolution was worded, it was about the drainage and things like that. And it didn't seem like it was already included in a prior ordinance and things like that. So we did clarify this at Public Works this month. So we should be okay to move this forward. But I mean, by all means, feel free to express your concerns here too, so that you're heard.
Okay, so the topography of Washington Corner, you probably know if you went on it, is curves and hills. But in addition to that, there is flanking that continuously undercuts and erodes the side wall edging of the road. And I really, truly believe it's dangerous. I know the road. I drive defensively, but I do think that this is an ongoing thing. and then it's patched. I mean, I'm very happy with the works department. My neighbors complain, they come out, they do things, but it's chewing gum in the dike. And I really think that it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed well. We have several bridges that could be undermined. There's a tremendous amount of water that comes down. I have photos, and it crosses over the road, which is dangerous too. So we'll be glad to see it being taken care of. And thank
And
you.
Johanna, I think, so I know you sent an email to council, and I think you mentioned me. So actually I did speak on it the last inning, in the last meeting. My issue is mostly procedural. Two things are really important to me as we move budgetary items forward. Number one, we plan for it, which we had in that circumstance. And then number two, that we have effective communication that goes throughout the borough as to how the expenses are put together, and make sure that the council has full information as things come forward. So that was really the reason why I was objecting to it at the time. It was a procedural objection, not one actual expenditure itself.
And I just want the opportunity to say that I totally applaud every time I hear one of the council members make a fiscally responsible decision. I really do. That was not my question. I just thought lots of people may not see the way that water travels and the erosion that it does. So
I agree. And I think as a priority, I know that the public works department is working hard. And I know in the finance committee, just so the public is aware, we're preparing, and I know that Tom is not here today, so I guess I'll speak. And John, if you want to add to this as well, preparing to, we need to make sure that we can, in a fiscally responsible way, to do the repairs of today and also the repairs of tomorrow. So we're creating both a short-term and long-term fiscal plan to make sure we handle all these issues.
very good. Sounds good. Thank you.
I just wanted, if I could just quickly throw in, thank you, Joanna, for sending us the video of the torrent of water coming down the road, and especially on the side of the road where you could see where the erosion would be inevitable. I think that spoke volumes, not just the volume of water, but the speed of the water. So that spoke volumes, and I think it'll be really interesting once we fix the road to show the before and after of what appropriate drainage and appropriate milling and paving does. So thank you very much for that video. Although I wish you hadn't been driving when you took it.
I ran into a neighbor, and because I didn't want to line up my neighbors, because I don't like squeaky wheel kind of approaches. And I asked them some questions, and they sent it to me. Yeah.
Okay.
I know. That was a little tricky. That was the driver doing that. Okay, thank you.
So do we have any other public session? I don't see any hands raised. Do you, Anthony?
No, don't see any.
Any physical hands raised?
No.
No. Okay, then I will close the public session. And we shall move on to ordinances. There's one ordinance tonight, which is a public hearing. So I would like to open the public hearing on ordinance 2021-1871 concerning sewer connection fees and sewer user rates allocation and amending chapter 16 of the Borough Code entitled Sewer Regulations. Would anybody wish to be heard in this public hearing? Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to pass or?
Yeah, I'll move. This was discussed in detail in the finance committee.
Okay, so,
I'll second.
Also, yeah, okay, sorry.
Do we have to read the
read that
ordinance
little
number again?
sentence. Yeah,
I'll move to pass ordinance 2021-1871 and final reading is published.
and we had a second from
Jeff.
Jeff.
Gina. Oh, Jeff.
Dr. Hammond,
sorry.
yeah.
Okay, roll call.
Mr.
Do we
Donahue?
need to discuss this first? Is everybody prepared to vote on this, or is there a discussion and explanation that's needed?
I think
sorry.
we've talked about it.
We talked
Good.
about it in Public Works and we got some great input from John McDowell, both in an email and a report. We decided that that it was prudent to do this in order to maintain our sewer facility for residents, and it will be an increase in cost to residents, but it's not something that's out of the ordinary over the past few years, or it's within reason, I guess we would say.
Well, the big change here from a financial structure is it's moving to, and the increments are smaller versus every other year. And again, for the finance committee, the purpose here is, well, we need to make sure we have a sufficient reserve in place in case there are structural repairs that are needed.
Yeah, I think the salient feature is that the increases, should they occur, are going to be smoothed out over time rather than
Yes.
Periodic large increases.
That's exactly the point, Jeff. Exactly.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, so we had our motion and our second, so now we can roll call.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Ms. McCready,
Yes.
Mr. McQueen,
Yes.
Ms. Zamara.
Yes. Moving on to resolutions, we have resolutions number 21-32 to 21-43. Are there any that you would like to pull for discussion, council members?
Yeah, just give me 1 second just to scroll through.
Well,
We have the update on the 2134. That's the new
Exactly.
2121.
so we can discuss that one if you want, Gina.
I mean, we can just, give the update from the PW meeting.
Well, we have reports coming later, but
No,
essentially,
just for this one.
yeah, for this one, we did decide that it was a
Can we pull out 2138, please?
2138, which is the lower library generator.
Yeah.
Any others? Okay, so did you have a question or Chad?
Yeah, so John, and I didn't have a chance to go back to our records. Look, my preference is when things appear that we have a full report. John, is this in the current fiscal plan? Do you remember?
I don't recall if it is or not, actually.
And actually, I don't think it is. I believe it was an optional item that was under consideration by the financial committee that was not added to the budget, if my recollect was correct. Do you have the same?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. I don't trust my memory because we didn't have an opportunity for a meeting before this. But if it could be tabled, I certainly want to revisit it at least once more time.
Yeah. And Ralph, do you have details on this? I mean, again, so
Yeah. This has been on in the financial plan for a few years, Chad. It's taken us quite a while to get this together, get the bids out, and get the proper specs. But this has been in the plan.
are the monies already appropriated, Ralph?
Yes. Yes.
They are.
Well, if we're awarding the contract, then we
Yes,
went out to
it
bid
has to
already.
be. I've certified that the funds are there to award the contract.
All right. That's all what I wanted to know. So if that's the case, I have no issue.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay, so do I have a motion for resolutions 21-32 to 21-43? Or can I
Sorry,
still move
does
them
Chad
if I'm
want
the
the-
mayor? Can I still move?
Yes.
Okay, Chad, did you have something else?
Sorry, I just wanted to ask Chad for the update on Washington Corner. Do you want that for 2134 from Public Works? Because it was in the ordinance, the original, the money is coming from the original ordinance from 2015.
Yeah, I was satisfied with with the description that we got from, I think it was from Doug.
Good. From Doug. Okay, good.
You know, look, these are look, it would be really nice that when ordinances come, there's a statement along with it that says, look, the money's been appropriated through this resolution, and so we know exactly fiscally where things are coming from.
Yeah, actually, by law, the resolution has to have a certification of funds attached to it, which includes the line item. So maybe we should just include that in the agenda.
That would be useful, John, Jack. So we don't.
It's on the resolution, the certification of funds. It's right. It's typed into there. Yeah.
What is it? Just like a whereas statement?
No, it's below the.
Draft certifying.
It's below the whereas statements.
Right.
Let me take a look here.
If you're on 2134, which is page
34
31.
It's below number 2 in that resolution.
Yeah,
Right.
we can't award any contract without that certification being attached. And by the way, Christine, you can fully participate in the meeting, even though you're
Okay.
chairing it. You
Okay.
can move, second, vote.
Yeah, so it shows this 2015 ordinance
Okay.
from there. Okay.
Yeah, and then any other questions or comments from the
I
council?
do not.
Okay, so I'll move that resolutions 21-32 to 21-43 be adopted. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Ms. Zamara,
Yes.
Mr. McQueen,
Yes.
Ms. McCready,
Yes.
Mr. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
you're on mute.
Moving on to reports. We're up to the mayor's update, and I will update you that the mayor is recovering from medical procedure. So she's not here with us today. So we all wish her well, and we will see her in a couple of weeks, I hope. I'm sure she kept busy as much as she could. Before that, I know she was involved with the mural painting at the train station. So I'll just mention that if anyone would like to participate in the painting of the mural or find out more about it, you can go to downtownbernardsville.com, I believe it is, and get a full update on that. And also the winter market is still going on Saturdays. It's cold, but it's still open 10 to 12 on Saturdays. Next item is the municipal attorney report, and I believe we'll be talking about that in closed session. Jack? Yep. Okay, and then 9C is Public Safety Committee, which we did meet. So Dr. Jeff, did you want to give any update on public safety?
Oh, that's not me.
Yeah.
John,
Oh, I'm
that's,
sorry.
Yeah, I'm on public safety, and I need
Okay.
to get something on the books later on this month.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No worries, no worries. I had nothing to report as of yet.
Okay, the Finance Committee. I know Tom isn't here.
I can take it if you'd like, Christine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
So we've met almost every other week. Tom, we had some issues our last meeting, so we had to cancel. But no, there are two items going on. Number one, we are continuing to narrow the gap in budget. And I think we're well ahead of where we were last year in regards to getting the budget balance. And then number two, we continue to go through individual department lines to make sure that we're finding areas of savings where possible. And lastly, at this point, we're reviewing many of the discretionary requests for either improvements and or items that weren't part of the initial lines to be included. So we're refining things. And how soon do you think we'll have a final, John? Probably a month. I think we're not too far away. Yeah,
I want to say by at least by the end of February, beginning of March, we're usually pretty close. It's a process of iterations. We go through the budget, and then we'll make the changes, and we'll look at the next spreadsheet the following week and sort of iterate it down to making the trade-offs we have to make to keep the borough running and also winding the wallets of our residents.
Okay, so moving on then to the Personnel Committee.
Yes.
Thank you.
We met on January 21st, and we had a pretty full agenda. We did go over a draft of one of our labor attorney's recommendations related to the resolution that was passed late last year on diversity and inclusion and anti-discrimination. And Mr. Maresca, the business administrator, will present part of that in his report later. Some of that is still in process of development, and so that'll be held. The second half will be held for a later meeting. We did initiate plans to look at creating a skills matrix among the staff, which in part would serve us to identify areas where cross coverage would be feasible, and we would be able to enhance our productivity, particularly in times of a crisis like the pandemic or weather conditions, adverse weather conditions. We have discussed, and it's in process with the Borough Labor Attorney, COVID notification plan and policy. We did discuss potential for developing a wellness program for the staff, and we did discuss the staffing of the Fire Prevention Bureau, and I think that's going to be coming up later as an individual item.
We do have that on our agenda. I think it is. No, I don't see it. Oh, in closed session, maybe? I think it's in closed session. Sorry about that.
Yeah, this is a personnel issue. It
Yes.
would likely be in closed session first.
Right. Okay. So our next committee update would be Engineering, Technology, and Public Works.
If I could, I forgot, I guess I should mention that because it was a holdover from last meeting, but Leslie Roberson did accept the offer to be CFO and will start officially February 1st.
Excellent. That's very good news.
Okay.
Anybody? Okay.
Public Works.
Public Works, sure.
Yeah. So we had talked about the Washington Corner and Carriage House Road. So that all of the funds are there and available, and we've got the grant. We talked also about funding of roads with the additional money that's left in the original 2015 $10 million bond that was approved by referendum. And we'll probably have something coming to council for that, for the last $900,000 that's left in that 2015 ordinance in a future meeting, probably next month. We talked about the dam remediation again. We requested a 12-month extension to the January 31st deadline. So we might have, we hope that that's going to get approved. Sorry, kids trying to say goodnight.
That's okay.
So we hope that that gets approved, because otherwise we won't be able to submit by the end of the month. But Doug seemed that we didn't have any problems with that. We have very good reasoning with New Jersey Transit coming in as an additional owner of some of the property. The walking path is now with, we're looking to do a preliminary meeting with the DEP. So we're waiting on the DEP to come back to us with their, with some dates that work for them. They threw some dates out in February, so hopefully that'll get done next month.
Gina, is that because it crosses some wetlands? Is that right? Or?
Yes, that's where, we're opening the walking path up and trying to get the extension of the baseball field back to the 300 feet. So it goes into that wetlands area. Yeah.
Okay. That'd be interesting, because there's a lot of other properties in our borough that have wetlands that could otherwise be very usable. So be interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what this preliminary meeting, we spent some money to get some documents and plans together for the DEP. So hopefully, yeah, we'll see how that meeting goes. We did file our grant for the Boylan Terrace connection. That's with the NJDOT, and we should expect a response back by September, October of this year. We requested $1 million in that grant. Talked about the planning board updates for 271 Minebrook. There's some things that the borough needs to do for the property based on the planning board output. I think that's, oh, the other thing we talked about was where else could we put the trucks as opposed to across from Borough Hall. And essentially there is nowhere good on that side of town. We talked about back in the quarry, but there's really no good way for people to turn around back there. So if we have anything on this side of town, that's really the only thing that was possible. The only option there. I think that's really it. Key things from Public Works anyway.
Thank you. Next we have our land use committee, which I don't know if anyone
John's the only one here.
can speak to that.
Yeah, I don't, we have not had a meeting, at least I was not at a
Yeah.
meeting. If we had one, I think the RFPs are due end of this month or maybe the next week or so. And I'm not sure what we've received so far, but you know, I'm excited to see what comes in and what we can work with.
Yeah, when are you guys supposed to meet again, John?
I think once the
Review
RFPs, yeah, I think so. I think topology starts the process and then we kind of get involved, you know, concurrently with that, I think is the plan.
And when are those due again?
26 rings a bell. I have to go back and look, but I'd probably end up crashing out of this meeting if I try to find it on my computer.
I know, I feel like I ask every meeting too. My brain is not
Oh, I know.
what it
I'm
used
fried.
to be.
The RFPs for which one? Quimby Lane?
Yeah.
Quimby
It says
and
February 18th. Is the
okay.
due date. We also have
Q&A
out the,
session? Sorry, we have the
No,
Q&A session before that?
I'm not sure about that, but we have, it's due. The RFP for Quimby Lane is due if somebody wants to submit a proposal, February 18th. Do I have that right, Jack? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that starts the process. I mean, it's not like they submit it and it's done deal. It's that's when the whole like the question and answer
Right. Oh, right.
back and forth.
Yeah. And are you guys are doing the Audi site too, right? And is it also, is the train station RFP under land use too? No, Jack's shaking his head no.
I think that's Public Works.
Yeah, that's Public Works.
Okay.
Correct.
We didn't talk
And
about
that one's due 2/26.
And the Audi dealership, is that part of, is it the one there?
That one was already due, I think, in mid-January.
Yep, we only got one proposal.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think at our last meeting, we talked about maybe going out to bid a second time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did we make a decision on that or no?
I'm pretty sure we said that we were going to advertise it again. Am I right? I could be.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I guess we can follow up on that.
You know, I'm not handling that, but I guess we should look at the
Yeah.
proposal that was received.
The next one's Friday.
That might be with topology. They might be involved in that too.
Right.
So, I mean.
When I said we, I meant the borough.
Yeah, so the deadline was January 7th,
So
and we only got one, essentially.
can we, because obviously there are various committees. I know that there are several RFPs that are due.
Mhm.
Can we just ensure, Anthony, that whatever committees are responsible for those RFPs meet within the next week or two to review them and make recommendations as appropriate?
Sure, I can do that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Is it, I guess, the land use and redevelopment? Who's responsible for the Audi one? Is it land use or
Land use.
redevelopment or both?
No.
Land use redevelopment.
Oh, got it. Mhm.
Land use has that one and redevelopment has Quimby.
Yeah.
So I think, so John, you're on that land use committee, right?
Yes.
He's on both, yeah.
So, John, I assume that
Yeah, it happened.
recommendation soon?
Sorry, say it again.
I'm guessing that group will be reviewing and making regular.
Yeah, I think it's a recollection service. It starts with topology because we carved out some of the money we were going to spend to them to have them look at it, and then we'll review it also. And that's where I think the process of, getting all of you involved also to, to see what questions come up and concerns that may come up.
Okay, so that was our land use update. Then we have any other committee or commission reports? We have housing or zoning.
Yeah, so we met last week. So we're two primary things. I see Jeff. Is Jeff there? Hey, Jeff.
He's here.
So Jeff, I'll let you talk about. I saw the ordinance on the agenda today, but it didn't seem like it got revised. So we can talk about that. But the other primary issue that was discussed was, and actually I think Renee was there instead of you, Jeff. The folks down at the south side of 202, there's some inquiries going on about those properties and redevelopment and building on them. And there's questions about parking and some of the logistics. So just know that there are ongoing conversations at various places about, is this an issue that we have to deal with in the ordinance itself? So there's nothing in the action, just know that conversations are going on about making the environment right for builders to do it the correct way.
What ordinance are you talking about?
So, the zoning overlay for the downtown core as well as, and that zoning overlay was very specific in regards to parking and where parking was and the way that various lots are used with setbacks. And there were some questions have come up about whether or not those requirements are correct for the lower south side of the 202 portion.
So that would be the downtown gateway side?
Yeah.
Down by Monterey and that area?
No, that's north. South is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the parking requirements are pretty similar throughout all those zones.
Yes.
And there are some leniency in what percent of requirements can be off-site.
Well, I think the issue is whether or not parking should be required in front or in back for those places that are down further south. And it's like I said, nothing to be actioned right now. It's an active discussion at those committees. So
okay,
make the council aware.
But I thought that redevelopment already passed. So you're saying if we decide that we need to change it, we would have to go back and redo the zoning ordinance? Is that what you're saying? I'm not saying that would happen. There are a lot of different remedies if we decided they were needed. So all I'm saying is that there's no action right now. We're just discussing various things, Jeff. And possibly that may be a circumstance, but I think it's not likely. Okay, so just so I fully understand, this is coming out of the planning board, not out of the Housing and Zoning Advisory Committee. A lot of those folks are the same between redevelopment and housing and zoning. A lot of those folks are the same. So it's sort of. Well, okay, they may be the same, but which committee is driving it? That's what I'm trying to ascertain. Right now, it is being discussed primarily in housing and zoning. Okay.
Okay, any questions for Jeff while he's here? And also any other committee liaison reports?
Yeah, I had one. So Jeff, I saw the stormwater ordinance appear, and it was my recollection that the decision of the committee was that we were going to remove the 1-year requirement. So I was a little surprised that I saw a marked up ordinance on the agenda for this evening.
Yes, this came from our engineering consultant, where he's been liaising with Somerset County and the NJAC about the stormwater rule we have as an ordinance.
Yeah, this doesn't have to do with the deed restriction, Chad.
No, this is something else.
This is an updating of the stormwater ordinance itself.
Well, it seemed to be related and relevant because the discussion at the committee was if we would rather make the ordinance itself align with the county. And that's what I am interpreting that this was trying to do.
Okay.
I think the primary purpose of this ordinance, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, is to bring it into compliance with the latest DEP regulations.
That is correct. Yes, it's state changes that are required to go into our ordinance. But again, these changes are silent on the deed restriction requirement.
Well, it was more so the discussion at the Housing and Zoning Committee, and I don't want to move on to the agenda items, but since we're here, was that the 1-year report was not mandated at the state level. It was a local it was a local piece of requirement.
Okay. Well, the third bullet of Bob Brightly's email talks about this monitoring and the report that has to be. I'm sorry, bullet number 2 talks about the operation and maintenance, which is actually a chapter in our ordinance.
Yeah, so we specifically discussed removing B. So I mean, I recommend that we just take this back to committee because it was an unresolved issue. But it sounds like this may be coming from a different committee if it was something driven by Bob Brightly.
Right.
This is coming from the engineer directly.
Yes, it has. But it doesn't talk to the annual requirement in this particular bullet, and it doesn't.
Well, so 7B, which is what I understood to be our local requirement, which is evaluate the effectiveness and maintenance plan at least once per year and adjust the plan indeed as needed, was the line that we wanted struck.
Okay.
And the discussion at the housing committee was that this ordinance should be no more restrictive than the state.
Right. And to my knowledge, the state doesn't require the deed restriction. And I don't know whether this latest revision has brought that language into play.
Well, the deed restriction, it also was stated that it also does not require a yearly report.
But 3B applies only to major developments. I think the discussion about the other ordinance that was being discussed was about minor developments and applying the major development standards to minor developments.
I see.
So that issue is still out there. This
it's still out there.
Compliance, and I believe the time is of the essence to adopt this.
Right, because this is in Bob's email, it says the Somerset County, he's following up from something that the county is bringing down to us, that we need to do this
Yes.
very soon.
So this does not resolve the other issue that's still hanging out there.
So this was the major developments only, Jack?
That's correct. That particular requirement about the annual.
It does have number 3 in minor developments. Inspection and maintenance log forms are required to be submitted to the borough engineer by the April 1st of each year. Is that also a county requirement? Because as of a week ago, based on the information we had in committee, it was not.
I believe that's part of the new state DEP stormwater regulations, which are actually federal requirements.
But yeah, I'm not sure whether that applies to major and minor.
Yeah. Well, no, that's in the minor development section. Yeah, I mean, Jack, obviously I'm concerned because we typically have language that rolls over from ordinance to ordinance, and I just want some guarantees that this has been checked. And not
Bob Bradley wrote this, but all the underlined sections are brand new.
Right, which is one of the ones that Chad's talking about.
Right.
12-29.3, it says operation, maintenance, and repair of stormwater management facilities. Letter A, minor developments. Number 1, number 2, and then number 3. All of that is underlined, meaning all of that is new. It's
or it could just be moved.
Yes.
Well, the question is, can we remove it and still be in compliance with what the state is making us adopt? And I don't think
as I read this, it's a minor requirement for minor developments. What we were discussing before was requiring plans be on file and that there be a deed restriction posted and an annual report. I think that was much more onerous than what's in here. I think it's
but Jack, the reason that was even a discussion was because there's a requirement of this annual reporting that at least as of last week was not a state requirement. That's my concern and questioning. Because the whole reason why we had the other discussion was because there was a requirement on our ordinance books.
But you know what? I suggest that we. Well, this isn't even on for introduction tonight, right? Or
It's just discussion tonight.
Chad kind of jumped. Chad kind of
Yeah.
jumped to 10F, and we haven't gotten
right.
to 10A
So it's only
yet.
on for discussion.
In part because we had an hour-long conversation about this at the housing committee.
Right, I got it. Okay, so you want to, I guess, can we make a recommendation? I guess, do we want to talk about 10F now from any other council members asking for any changes on here, or and then go back
Well, I
to
think
Bob
this-
with our changes and find out if it's something that can or cannot be removed?
Yeah, I think there's still two issues here. And one is the actual reporting of these minor developments on an annual basis and the actual deed requirement on to be filed with the county. Now, from my understanding, the deed requirement to be filed to the county is our requirement. It's not the state, but the annual maintenance, I believe, is the state's requirement for major and minor.
I agree.
Okay, and what Chad is saying is that we should not be more
Restricted than the state.
requiring more
Right.
from residents than what the state requires. And I don't
I'm
know
just
who.
checking. I'm checking the regulation itself in the meantime.
Thank
Well,
you,
if we think, I'll just weigh in. If we think that it's a wise thing to require more than the state, the fact that the state's the minimum, there's nothing that says that we can't improve
Exactly.
upon what the state requires as a minimum.
Right, so that's what we need to decide. I guess.
I agree, but I think we have to adopt this in the meantime. Hang on one second.
Do you know what the deadline is? Because it does say the revised stormwater ordinances must be effective no later than March 2nd, 2021.
Right.
So it'd have to be introduced and passed, so we take 2 meetings anyways. Can we get?
Yes. So it's
by
got to
the
be
next meeting?
introduced at the next meeting.
So as long as we can get resolution on some of our concerns and, move ahead and quickly.
So
Yeah.
can we agree that we want to introduce it, but we potentially, I don't know if the rest of the council agrees with the recommendation of taking out the inspection and maintenance part,
So,
if it's allowed.
so Christina, say introduce it now and then pass
Mhm.
as amended the next time? If we do make changes in that.
But we
Yes.
can introduce it the
Yep.
next meeting. If we rush it, right? Anthony, will you have time to get it published?
Yeah, we can introduce on February 8th with a public hearing on February 22nd. Actually, the planning board isn't going to meet until February 11th. And that's when they can discuss it. So we really can't adopt it any sooner than February 22nd.
Well, if we introduce it now, we still have a public hearing in,
On February
Right.
22nd, yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we can introduce it now.
Then why would we introduce it now? Because my understanding is there's a potential for doing a substantive change. Because then we would have to reintroduce it anyhow.
But we wouldn't have to reintroduce. We could amend at the public hearing.
Rather not make major amendments, I'd rather have, that's just tweaking something minor, but a major thing I think should be introduced largely in the form we want it to be in.
Yeah, I
That's what I'm
think
saying.
we should introduce in February.
I don't think this is to be a tweak. It sounds to me like this is a substantive issue.
Agree.
Well, yeah, I mean,
well, it
look,
really only is the minor development portion that
yeah, that's
we're
exactly right.
concerned about. We're not
And
concerned
just-
about the major developments. We're
and just
concerned
like
about
the-
the minor.
Transparently, this is my issue. And I think I know that the majority of the Housing and Zoning Committee feels the same. So if we have an ordinance that requires us to report something, we need to have the ability for our zoning. We talk about enforceability all the time. If we have something on the books, we have to have Jeff have the ability to enforce it and his team. Right now, the idea for enforcement is to put a deed restriction, which is a note on the deed. And there's many of us, actually, if not the entire committee, feels very strongly that a deed statement and a restriction can negatively affect home values and puts undue hardship on the homeowner. And there are many of us very negatively towards that. So we're looking for a path where if we want to make sure we're doing what's right, we want to make sure if we have an ordinance, it can be enforced, but we do not want to go the direction of any type of deed listing.
So yeah, we've discussed this. This is not the first time this has come up. This has been discussed at least in one, maybe two prior meetings. So what's the alternative? I mean, I'm fine with, not involving the deed if there's an alternative.
Well, the alternative was at the last meeting, because at the meeting where we determined that the yearly requirement was not a state requirement, of removing the yearly requirement. Thus my surprise when it showed back up in this ordinance.
Yeah, the yearly requirement to perform some kind of a maintenance on this device you have on your property. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And
it was to remove that requirement, Jeff.
Right, which, the other side of that is that the property changes hands. The new owner doesn't know they have one of these devices on their lot.
Well, that issue needs to be dealt with in real estate disclosure, and the appropriate disclosure that happens between the previous owner and the new owner. That was the opinion of the committee, that's a real estate disclosure issue, not for the town to get involved with.
Right, and when you do a title search, you find these things in the deeds, and that's why we went down that path.
Mm.
And frankly, if the borough has a vested interest in making sure that these devices are maintained and working properly, then I'm not so sure I want to relegate that responsibility just to the sales agent and the disclosure of the property at the time. I think we need to minimize those kind of surprises.
Well, yeah, but if you think of a real estate transaction, Jeff, I mean, it's the seller's responsibility to disclose the property, right? Whether it's faulty, whatever it is, these are the pool doesn't work in these ways. Your responsibility to disclose.
Well, that may be their responsibility to disclose, but again, we're an interested party in all this, and therefore we're trying to protect our vested interest.
I can tell you that the committee, and there are several real folks that are in the real estate market on that committee, they hold a different opinion.
Well, I understand that it's an advisory committee, and they have a certain bias related to that. I appreciate that. That I'm just trying to weigh the two forces and take the advice of our zoning officer as well.
Maybe there's a middle ground here, because Jeff, when you buy a house in Bernardsville, because I've done it in a long time, you have to make sure all the construction permits are closed. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. There's a records closure certification.
Is there any way we could have, rather than have a deed restriction, have some kind of a permit taken out, so when they do this process, at least it triggers the idea that this should be maintained before property changes hands, without actually doing a deed restriction? Is there a middle way to do that, or am I just off, that impractical?
No, that's a very good idea.
That way, the permit's there, it's technically open, so you have to close it by showing it's been maintained within the last 12 months or maintained before it's turned over.
Right.
Or it's working.
That way, it's not a deed restriction per se, but it is kind of a check and a balance on enforceability, as Brad says.
It could be another box on the form that says, do you have a dry well on your property, yes or no?
Yeah, so maybe that works. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we need about
the issue of the committee is the whole deed link and listing and actually dealing, messing around with somebody's deed on the property.
Well, this would alleviate that problem, but it would also, I think, address the concern that Jeff had, which it's not, what people have, it's not unreasonable. That's make sure these things are properly maintained.
I don't disagree.
So do we agree that
let me think that through and come up with a draft of this record closure certification with that on it and pass it through Jack.
And then we can introduce this ordinance, but prior to that, find out if Bob Brightly can remove that part of this.
Well, so I
for
mean, I
the
don't necessarily
introduction?
think he needs to remove it, Christine. What I'd like to understand from Bob or whoever's viewing this is it in line with the state, yes or no? And where are we being more restrictive than the state, so that way we can make informed decisions about what we do and do not want to include.
Mhm.
I
So
think we
not
can
only
invite-
this.
I suggest we invite Bob Brentley to our next meeting.
Oh,
That's fine.
all right.
Yeah.
And we said that we had to have this by when in March, Christine?
I'm sorry.
March 2nd, I believe.
All right, so we can't go into the March meeting. We have to do it by the February 22nd meeting. Okay.
But Jack or Anthony, in preparation for the next meeting, can we ask Bob just to, I mean, he can create a simple, look, and all I really care about is the places where we're being more conservative than the state.
I can talk to Bob.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the deadline for these to be effective is March 2nd.
Okay.
So effectively, there's only two. February is kind of a short month. So we have February 8th. The planning board meets on the 11th, and I guess they have to review this too.
Right, because it's a land use ordinance, so they have to give their recommendation, yeah.
So if we introduce it on the 8th, planning board reviews it on the 11th, hopefully. Then the public hearing will be the 22nd, right?
Right.
What happens if the planning board, and because this has happened in the past, they don't get it on their agenda, or they run long and they don't consider it? Do we have an appeal or some sort of waiver that we can get an extension?
Jack?
I don't see anything in the regulation allowing that, but the regulation's pretty vague. I'll check in the meantime. We just have to tell the planning board they have to act on it during that time period.
I already told Frank Mantola that it was coming one way or the other, either whether it be introduced tonight or on the 8th, so he knows about it. So he would, he knows to have it on the agenda for the 11th. But
Okay.
hopefully they'll make a recommendation at the same time.
Good.
Oh, good. And then they also have a meeting on the 25th, but I don't know. That's pretty close. And then we don't meet until March 8th. So is this giving us enough time?
What if they don't do it on the 11th, you mean? Or?
No, I'm saying if we do not introduce it tonight,
Right,
which we're not, right?
right. We have enough time to introduce on the 8th and then public hearing and adopt on the 22nd, definitely. With the newspaper requirements, we can definitely get that through. Yeah.
We can do it as long as the planning board doesn't throw us a curveball.
Well, that, and that too, yes.
Well, so Jeff, I believe, so these two committees, they sort of merged together because a lot of the folks are the same. I believe that your ordinance was also discussed in the planning board with a whole lot of emotion about the whole deed issue. So I think having the answer to that other issue would be important to make both committee discussions go smoothly.
Whether it's a state requirement or not.
Well, whether it's a state requirement or not, and what we're going to do with it in regards to enforcement.
Okay.
And so John's idea, whether or not we can just make a checkbox in regards to the closure of the permit. That
At the time of sale, we will inform the real estate agent and the closing that there is a dry well on the property and there is a maintenance requirement.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have this for our next meeting, and we'll have Bob Brightly's input by then from Jack. Okay, so we kind of jumped around a little bit, but are there any other, we're still on item 9, council liaison reports. Are there any other liaison reports?
Yeah, I do have one, but before I give the Environmental Commission, I'm concerned, Councilman McQueen's made several references to that there's a great deal of overlap and homogeneity between the planning board and the Housing and Zoning Advisory Committee. I'm not so sure that's a healthy thing. I didn't realize that, but if we're having that much redundancy, then we're really not getting a variety of
I
opinions.
misspoke, Jeff, it's one person. So there's one person that overlaps.
Okay, well, that's a big difference. Okay.
Yeah, there's only one person that overlaps.
Because I was going to suggest we re-examine the appointments, or if we had open spaces, we really look at our skills bank and find some people to put into housing and zoning to create that kind of heterogeneity that we want to get a variety of opinions.
No, there's one person that overlaps and the meetings are back to back on Thursdays. So
okay, that's fine.
About a 4-hour gap of my time that blends.
All right. Well, then let me just give a brief, actually a dual report of both the Environmental Commission and the Green Team, since they kind of go hand in hand. Environmental Commission met on January 13. Johanna Wissinger is the chair, and she had it really well organized. I have to give her kudos on that. She said we're considering creating a dashboard, which means we're going to do a dashboard, I think, just considering it. But we had a variety of topics, some of which was the creation of subcommittees and work groups. The primary focus for these, and weigh in if I missed any, Johanna, is a liaison to the school, the liaisons to Raritan Headwaters, and a stormwater subcommittee. We had a lot of discussion about e-vehicles, electric vehicles. And in fact, there's been a number of workshops being put on by Sustainable Jersey, for which several members, at least 3 of us on the Environmental Committee have sat in on these workshops about what other communities have done. And I expect we'll have some sort of recommendations in sometime in the future. We did discuss the role that the green infrastructure program in the state is taking and how we may adapt into that and interface with what Rutgers try to do. And then we had a vigorous discussion about expanding upon the rain garden plans that we have already undertaken, and how we might encourage residences to undertake on their own personal property rain gardens, how we could facilitate and help with that kind of training. And then lastly, the Environmental Commission raised the issue of the status of the recycling transfer center at the quarry, where things stood. We knew that there had been a request by the DEP for some additional information from the applicant. I relayed that request to the borough attorney, who's investigating that. Will get back to us to see where things stand with that. In concert, the Green Team, which has not met because of COVID in something like 8 or 9 months, but we have been in communication electronically or by email. But they did give their blessing to our effort to apply for the Sustainable Jersey Technical Assistance Energy Efficiency Grant, and that was submitted on Friday. So we'll see whether we get that. We have actually done in detailing the energy efficiency efforts that the borough has done under the direction of our Public Works Department, John McDowell and Doug Watson. We've actually done quite a bit since from 2010 to 2018. There was quite a bit of activity. And so really, that may hurt us in terms of getting the grant because we've already achieved so much, but we tried to point out the additional things that we'd like to look at. And then lastly, Sustainable Jersey did put out a call that they had a number of 60-watt LED dimmable light bulbs that they wanted to make sure they could get out to low-income families or community organizations, such as they specifically mentioned food banks. So I applied for 100 of these light bulbs. They said they only come in packages of 120, so what I want 240. So being greedy, I said, well, I'll take 360. And they said, well, you'll get 400. So we're going to have these delivered at some point. I've been working with Chief Valentine, who's reached out to our two new police chaplains, Reverend Beth and Pastor Dan, and working with them and several other organizations in town. Will distribute these LED light bulbs to lower income families.
Thanks, Dr. Jeff. And any other liaison reports? I have one more.
There was also a shade tree meeting, but it conflicted with the work meeting, so I wasn't able to be there. I don't know if Johanna was there, if anything occurred that you can enlighten us, including me.
Oh, she's on mute. She's on mute. There we go.
Yeah. Well, I made a suggestion that we might adjust our meetings to making sure that Renee is able to come. She's usually able to come. She gives us a report every time, and so she did it online. Yeah, so it was the usual kinds of things that we do. A little bit about what permit she granted, and that was it. So we missed you.
Yeah, I'll see as they come up. It's kind of touch and go what goes on in my mornings, and it's not usually not up to me.
Okay.
Okay, so do we have rec committee?
And that's Tom now. So no.
Oh, Bob is on. Bob, did you want to add something? Bob Markowick is on.
Sure. Hey,
Hi.
I got my twice a year haircut here, so it's me. I promise.
Nice.
So yeah, as far as rec goes, ski club has been going amazing. We transported 90 kids up there, but the response was so great that we ended up selling out Shawnee's 3-packs as well. So I think about 40 kids from the area are also having their parents drive them up. At any given Friday, I think it's about 150, kids and parents from Bernardsville at Shawnee Mountain. So
That's great.
going great. And Lou Romano and Jennifer Tondo have been manning the 2 buses, and they've been doing an amazing job. So I give a shout out to them as well. We have soccer going right now. A lot of things coming in March. We took a survey of the community. They didn't want too many things, but now they do again. So a bunch of outdoor stuff coming in March, and we're really excited about that. And for rec, we just had to touch base about Memorial Day with talking to Councilman Hammond and Donahue about the bike race. Just want to see if that's on. I connected you guys offline, but we talked about that in committee. And pool fees, we're going to be addressing those. It was subcommittee in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have that for the next council meeting in February, I believe.
Great. Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
The Tour of Somerville bike race is what we're tied in with. So a lot of our decision about whether Memorial Day is a go or not will depend upon whether it's a go with them, because they want to link them all together. So it might be Labor Day weekend, depending upon the pandemic. But what about the parade, the Memorial Day parade? Have you guys discussed if that's going to be a go or not?
Still have to touch base with Chief Valentine, but a lot of other municipalities are canceling St. Patrick's Day at this point. So I think we have to wait until at least, early March if we're going to make a full determination on that, maybe February. But, we're open to doing whatever council decides. Well, we're planning to go, but it's not looking as promising as it was in the initial planning stages, just as far as the state goes.
Yeah, I think the rollout of the vaccination, the delays is hurting everybody, and our hopes of doing things in the spring are fading.
Yes, but the outdoor sports are all going to happen in the spring. Introducing some new tournament formats for youth sports. We're going to play the indoor sports outdoor in March. We did that very well in the fall, so we're going to bring that back and looking to do fitness as well. So. We're going to keep working with the health department, putting on these programs outside until we can get back until the weather gets nice, we'll get back in the schools.
Okay. So I have, sorry, I've got the ad hoc train, quiet zone committee and Board of Health. And I also wanted to ask about Green Team, Jeff, because I didn't know who the liaison was actually, but I'm the liaison for 2021. So I don't know how.
Well, we both are actually.
Oh, okay.
There's 2 of us, yeah.
So how does that? So that's good that you're on too, because
it happened because I tagged Bob Baker, who's the chair of the green team, I tag him at the farmers market where we both volunteer every Saturday. So it was informal.
Oh, okay. So the meetings aren't, I don't know. This is my second year on, so I don't know how these transition works. I know I didn't get any transition last year either. So I'm assuming maybe this is just a.
No, there hasn't been any formal meeting, and he hasn't scheduled one, although he's talked about that now, that it was really needed. I think a lot of, frankly, the green team kind of runs
e-waste
autonomously. So, for example, Ed English runs the farmers market, and doesn't really have to interface with the green team unless there's an issue.
Okay, so do they meet on a?
They used to meet, well, prior to the pandemic, yes, there were meetings. We haven't had a meeting, I don't think, since April.
Oh, okay. Not even Zoom or phone or
Zoom.
nothing? Wow.
Nothing.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And how do the handovers work? Like, should I be contacting Tom as the rec liaison from last year to give him some kind of update? I mean, I know I didn't get anything, like I said, when I came in last year, but is that something that should do or no? Everybody just fends for themselves in their new liaison.
Well,
I think
usually
you raise a good point. We don't really have a formal mechanism to do it. We never have, and I think everybody's sort of on their own. And I think you raised a really good point that that's not a good way of doing it.
Okay. Okay.
Well,
I'll
I
let
think if
that go
it's
for now.
something, yeah, I think if it's something worth sharing, it's definitely a good idea. But in the meantime, I mean, that's why these reports during the council meeting are so important, so that we can all be kind of kept abreast of everything. My last report is library.
Oh, and I have ad hoc train and board of health.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
No, that's okay. The ad hoc quiet zone committee, I forget our name even. We met in the middle of January. We're going to meet again in the middle of February. I have to put that on the calendar. But everybody's been really great, attending, taking some action items and looking into different things. So right now we're trying to see, how much it might cost to, either get somebody in to kind of talk about the Federal Railroad Association, I think it is, or some FRA. They're the ones who have all the rules on the, as far as the crossing goes in the quiet zone. And so we're trying to see if we need to get a consultant to come in, or if it's, if we can get somebody from FRA to come down and kind of just walk around and maybe talk to us a little bit about what would need to be done. So people are looking into that. And we're also looking to maybe do some kind of pulse with the community to see how much interest or not there is in, investing in the quiet zone, because it likely could be some significant expense. And so to just gauge public interest and see if it's something that they would be willing to support or not. Otherwise, we won't get very far, right? So, okay, so that's really the quiet zone ad hoc committee. Then Board of Health, we met. Unfortunately, we didn't have the Bernards Township representative there because the meeting fell on Martin Luther King Day, which is a holiday for them. So next year we're going to switch that. So we just talked a little bit about some updates that were around. We voted in the new president and secretary and stuff, and they meet every other month. So I'll do that again in March.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of updates from the Board of Health on Facebook, which is good, about testing. There's a lot of local testing going on.
Yeah, they do. They're sending out emails. They're posting a lot on their website. So I would say check out the Bernards Township website. I mean, they do our animal control and everything. So we contract with them, and we just renewed that contract with them, or we're in progress of renewing it for another 3 years.
Well, they don't do animal control. They just do the licensing.
They handle any calls or anything that come through as well. Like they'll do what they need to do. The calls go into the police or something, then it's always in the report from them.
For animal control is like a third It's not the Bernards Township Board of Health.
No, they always give us the reports on all of the happenings.
Oh, like the rabies clinics and stuff?
Yeah, it's just included in their report if there's anything related to that. I just remember seeing it.
Yeah, we always get like a report. It's in one of the packets, just how many animals were picked up and, always report.
Yeah.
Anthony, those are from, what's the name of that?
It's from Animal Control Solutions.
Yeah,
They're
that's
the contractor that we have for animal control. And then the licensing is done in the clerk's office, though. It's not done by them. They pick up stray animals, things like that.
I gotcha. Okay. Thanks. And then the only thing I have about, the library is very busy with the new, they joined that Morris area library network, Maine. So they've been very busy with that, but they do have some announcements that they're going to be sending council members and the public for upcoming Dr. Seuss Day. They're going to have, so stay tuned for that. And they also elected the new members for the library board. This is the library board of trustees. So just keep an eye on your email for an invitation from them to participate in their events. So I do see a hand up from Johanna, and there is another open session at the end of the meeting. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay. I see the little high five. You were giving me a high five, right? Okay. So then I guess we can move on to items of business. And our first is the diversity policy.
Okay, thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
The Personnel Committee did meet on Thursday. Lisa Berryquick and myself presented all of the information that was gathered to create for the borough to digest and create a diversity policy. It was determined at that meeting that there is a lot of information that needs to be reviewed by the Personnel Committee first, and it was decided that we would present just one portion of that entire program, and that is the number of classes that can be attended by various personnel throughout the borough. And I believe that's been dispersed to the members of the governing body. And I guess, Jeff, I'll turn it over to you to, they're about a half an hour apiece. We did get that information from Lisa. And as I said, Jeff, maybe you want to take it from here. And
well, one of the components of the resolution from I can't remember if it was September or so of 2020 was that we would put in place training programs in addition to what the JIF requires, which is a training on sexual harassment. We would put together additional programs for staff on implicit bias and anti-discrimination and items of that nature. There were other components of it, and as Mr. Maresca has mentioned, the revisions of our policies and procedure manuals is rather extensive, and we didn't have time to review all that, so that'll come up at a later day. But Lisa Berryquick, one of our labor attorneys, has reviewed 25 separate training programs, and she produced this one to us, which is 4 modules. Each module is interactive and can be done at your own pace online. And they're upwards of 30 minutes, depending upon, how fast you go, because it is interactive. And the total cost would be approximately $32 per person who sits into it. So that would be a manageable expense if we said that you had to do this every 2 or 3 years, as an example. So we wanted to move forward and present this as the plan that at least we would adopt this training program to begin in 2021, and of course it was open for review if it ends up that we didn't particularly like it or it didn't meet the plans or expectations, then we could either abandon it or revise it. But there are the 4 modules that were in the memo that was sent out by Ms. Berry Quick. So I don't know, is this we had a resolution that dictated that the business administrator of the borough come back to us with a plan. What do we need to do now? This is the plan. Jack, does he put this into place, or do we need to vote on it again, or how does this work?
I think as long as you delegate it to the administrator, the authority to adopt the plan, then you don't need to take any further action. You could certainly affirm it if you wish.
Well, I think it would be important for everybody to buy into it because we're a component of this, and this I think as the leaders, of the borough, we all ought to be behind it. So I'd be interested in people's opinion about what the plan has put forward.
My one reservation is just, having borough and council do it. I mean, we're volunteers also, and it's another more time I have to carve out. So, that would be it's kind of like the other volunteers, what the wording was, encouraged but not required would be my recommendation. But, I realize it's probably in a minority on that one.
I think, again, we lead from the front. If it's not as important for us, then, excuse the dogs in the background. If it's not as important for us to do it, then we can't expect other people to consider it of as important.
Well, we don't have direct reports. We're the board. We're not. It's nobody. We have no authority over anybody other than the.
Well, that's not. I don't necessarily think that's entirely true. But we also, just to be clear, it also is mandated for the chairs of the Board of Adjustment and the Board of a Planning Board, because those are critical, outward-facing committees that deal with the public. I think it's absolutely vital. I don't, at the risk of speaking for our borough labor attorney, she feels it's vital as well. I can't see that we would say other people need to do it and not us. And it's no different than the fact that council members have to take a mandatory training on budgetary issues, for example.
So Jeff, I have a recommendation.
Let me just finish. We all had to take that, and we're only asking for 2 hours of your time spread out over 1 year every 3 years. I don't think that's onerous.
Yeah, Jeff, I have a recommendation to that regard. So if you look at the modules, overcoming unconscious bias, enhancing diversity inclusion, then module 3 is preventing workplace harassment, and number 4 is standing up to bullying. Modules 3 and modules 4 seem to be workplace oriented. Maybe make modules 1 and 2 mandatory for volunteers.
I could see, and your point's a valid one, and I could see, I thought that the one that was most questionable for us as borough council people would be number 4. I actually think number 3 is still important because we are part of the workplace. All of us interface with staff in the building. We come here frequently. We deal with any number of the staff, including the police officers. I think number 3 is important. I'd be willing to say that 1, 2, and 3 be mandatory, and we let 4 for the council members go. But I think 1, 2, and 3 are essentials.
And then maybe 1 and 2 for the various chairs. 1 and 2. So we're decreasing the chairs to the ones that are relevant to them.
I think that would be fair because they don't interface with the staff as much as we do. But it's Ralph, again, this is got to come from Ralph because we charged the borough administrator to present the plan. So would you be willing to accept that type of modification, Ralph? He's nodding.
He's saying yes. On mute, Ralph. He's on mute.
You're on mute, Ralph.
Yeah, no, I know. I know. Just trying to get the right button.
Okay.
I'm fine with that, but perhaps, you might want to give a little time to Tom, when he comes on board on the 8th to take a look at this as well. But I'm fine. If not, that's fine too. I'm fine with that.
Well,
I mean, at the end of the day, it needs to be impactful and relevant, right, Jeff? So we don't want to, we've all been through various training programs that have nothing to do with you and your job and role, right? So that's what I want to minimize.
You're absolutely right. Nobody's interested in doing something that's just checking a box. And that's why we actually charged the labor attorney to investigate it. And she went through, as I said, 25 different programs. Yeah. She did relay some of early on. I actually took 2 of them and said, this is not what we're looking for. So I actually put the kibosh on 2. So she went back, looked at a bunch, made these recommendations. I haven't personally taken these. I think we can accept it. And as far as delaying it, we talked about that as well. This was your recommendation. We need to move forward, I think.
Fine.
So, yeah, I mean, John, what do you think about that compromise?
Of unity, begrudgingly, I'll go along.
Yeah.
I mean, these are virtual trainings, so, you know, I don't see the hardship in having you do a 10-minute virtual training. And it's at the beginning of your term, right? Not annually?
That was the concept would be at within the first year of your term. That's just the same as the training we have to do on budgetary and financial issues, as well as the training we have to take on borough regulations, state regulations.
I mean, I don't see how this would hurt anyone. I don't only see it as a helpful thing. I think you'd be surprised at how much you can learn from this, and it would only benefit us. So I'm in favor of it the way it's written and recommended.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Ralph's comment about Tom reviewing this. I think that that's actually a really great suggestion, Ralph, because if he's the one who's going to be responsible for implementing the policy and ensuring its implementation and compliance, I think it would only be right to have him, especially if it's only a couple of weeks when he starts, to have him review it and look at it and make sure that it's something that obviously he can implement within the borough too.
Well, I'll tell you what, as a compromise then, since the way the resolution from 2020 was read is that the business administrator had to produce a plan within 90 days. So we can say that he produced a plan, at least it's in draft, and that we've now sent it back to him. So we would be compliant with that resolution. So, Tom, I know is meeting with you, Ralph, frequently, has met with you frequently for lengths of times. Can you potentially review this with him, and then we could put this back on the February 8th meeting and have it amended as was agreed to, that the chairs of the planning and the board of adjustment and the planning board only take the first 2 modules. Councilman and mayor take the first 3 modules, and the staff take all 4.
I'm meeting with Tom on Thursday. We are taking, we're going sightseeing on Thursday to show him various points of property and the fields and the pool and all sorts of things. But I'll run this by him.
So
would that be okay, Councilwoman McCready?
Oh, yeah. No, that would be great. I think, Jeff, you asked a question earlier about, what are the next steps here? Did that ever get answered? Like, does this have to be a resolution does council have to approve it? Does it just go into effect?
No, it does not. You delegated to Ralph the authority to adopt the policy. So no formal action is required by the council, but as I said, you can affirm it if you wish.
Yeah, we actually technically don't have to say anything, but I thought it would be a good idea for us to be on the record publicly to support it.
Okay. I was wondering what coming back. Okay. Okay. So even more so, I think that Tom should really be the one to make sure that, he's supporting it as well, so that we get that buy-in too before it just goes into effect.
Fair enough.
Okay. So, thank you, Ralph. That was excellent. Great work. It was very thorough. It's very thorough. And
well, Lisa, Lisa was really spearheading all of this, and she does great work for the borough.
Yep.
Great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so next item on our item of business is a 10B, Board of Health appointment for Al Ribeiro.
I think it's also the Downtown Redevelopment Committee as well. Christine, at the bottom.
At the bottom of,
Well, that was in his application, but what
It
was
is
on
that-
the agenda was just for the Board of Health.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at the
Yeah,
wrong
mayor's
document.
appointment.
oh, right, I see what you mean. The skills bank form, when he submitted it, he did check that box.
Yeah,
But
this
this
is the Board of
appointment is,
Mayor. Yep, I got you. I'm with you now.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's on here with us, waiting patiently. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
joining
Al.
us, and thank you for volunteering. It's always a great day when we see people that want to devote their time to the borough, the place you call home and we call home. It's a big deal. A lot of what goes on here is all volunteers. You see Johanna's here every council meeting. She's one of our most dedicated as well, and we look forward to working with you. And we know it's a big deal. You know, you can be doing a lot different things with your time than this.
So you should adopt a motion
Thank you very
consenting to the mayor's appointment.
I'll move
Thank
that we
you.
accept the mayor's appointment.
I'll second.
I'll second that.
And thank you, Al, because we desperately need people on the Board of Health. We lost one
Yes,
from
thank
last
you, Al.
year. And we
Yeah,
wanted
I would
to not
mention,
have a
thank you
quorum.
also for coming to all the council meetings. You've been a stalwart. I've seen that. And, you know, your background, I think it was at Pfizer, your background in big pharma is, it would probably be welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I told the mayor I wanted to start getting involved in helping out, and I'm glad she and the council has faith in me to be involved. I'm looking forward to getting started. So thank you very much.
You need to vote too.
Yeah, so are we roll calling?
No, you can do
Or-
voice vote.
Voice vote, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So the ayes have it. Welcome to the Board of Health Committee. And I don't know who's the chairman.
That's
Len
Len
Friedman.
Friedman.
I
Okay,
will tell
so
him. Yeah.
Len will provide, I'm sorry, Anthony will give Len your contact info. Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks, Al.
Okay, so next on the agenda is 10C, the approval of alternate for New Jersey American Water Company Mount Airy Road water main replacement.
Yeah,
This
I had
is
a
in,
fundamental question about that, Christine, if I could.
yep, this is in our packet. It's not looking good for
Recommendation
us.
from Public Works, because there are two alternatives that are pretty drastically different.
Yes, we did discuss it in Public Works. So maybe Gina, do you want to talk about this is that water main work that they're planning to do?
It's page 64, if you don't have it in front of you.
Yeah, no, I was looking back at my notes from Public Works.
Yeah, so we all agreed, and Dr. Jeff, I think you were there too,
Yes.
that we all agreed on the one item. So Chad, are you talking about the different
Yeah, I mean, there are
alternatives?
two alternatives. I just want to know which one the borough staff recommends.
The less disruptive one.
The one that was not a
Oh.
disaster. So
Oh,
this
yeah,
was
yeah.
alternative 2.
Sorry, yeah, it was the only one that didn't close down the bridge
Yeah.
and gave us the ability to cross over the Mount Airy Bridge. And
So is that the recommendation then? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
The other one
either
wasn't even an
alternative
option.
2.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Alternative 1 would require, similar to when Mount Airy was being reworked, and that was closed for a very long time. We don't want that. So
Good.
as much as we can, we're going to try to get alternative 2. They gave us the option. So that's the one we,
Good.
And this is thanks to the
John and
Palmers.
Doug.
Thanks to also to the
Oh,
Palmers
that's
for their
right.
willingness to have their parking lot,
Parking lot.
used, and it obviously will have to be put back the way it was from New Jersey American Water, but they were willing to allow that to happen, to make this happen.
So are we okay with that item then?
I am.
We're approving that. So Jack, should we voice vote? We're approving
Yes, yes, I would do it by
alternative
motion.
two.
I would do
Okay.
it by motion so we have it in the record.
I'll
Okay.
move to approve alternative two for New Jersey American Water Company Mount Airy Road water main replacement.
I'll second it. Okay.
Either one.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
We're good?
I was in favor, not opposed. It was late hitting my mute button.
Zoom difficulties. The next item is 10D, approval of Hardship Road opening at 46 Liberty Road. Does anyone have any questions or concerns to discuss?
Just to help me recall this, I know we did talk about this and we went to a scheduled fees on this. Is that right?
Yes.
This is for the gas line.
Yeah, so this one would
Yeah,
be
so-
that they would have to pay $1,500 based on our new fee schedule in order to open the road.
Okay.
I think it was 3 years ago it was done, so
Yeah, so I think the new policy
there's 3 years left.
with those fees helps protect us against any kind of damage to the road that I think we're okay. I mean,
That's in
personally,
addition, they have to put a $1,500
Yeah.
bond down as well.
right.
In
That's
addition to the fee.
$1,500 fee, yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of the, I knew we wanted to clarify that was sort of like, in play for now. It's the first one I can recall that we've had under that scheme.
Yeah.
So, but in this circumstance, they're actually looking to waive the bond as well, right? It looks like.
No,
There's no waiving, it's just approving.
no waiving the bond, no waiving the
Okay.
fee. They're
We're
just-
okay with
We're
that,
just
right?
asking them,
Yes, we are.
we're
Yep.
giving them the okay to open the road.
Yep.
So I'll move to approve the Hardship Road opening at 46 Liberty Road.
I'll second.
Yeah, that was me because that guy was annoying me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We're good? Okay, next is 10E, application for the New Jersey Forestry free tree event. One of my favorite things. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about this? This is where the Ed English and his team, members of the Shade Tree Committee and some Green Team members, I think, help out with distributing free trees to residents. So in the packet is the application, which we have to approve. Good. I'll move to approve the application for the New Jersey Forestry free tree event.
I'll second it. Missed it last year.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, the ayes have it. Next is 10F, the Municipal Stormwater Control Ordinance revisions.
Yeah. I think we dealt with this one already, Christine.
Oh, that's right. We did.
did.
So our final decision was that Jack was going to get in touch with Bob, clarify the items for the minor developments.
Based on my review of the regulation in the DEP website, it looks like all the minor development rules are at the local discretion, but I will talk about tomorrow.
Okay. So that's good news for Chad.
I circulated an FAQ to all of you.
Thank you. So that means we should be in a good position to make a decision at the next meeting before the deadline of March 2nd.
And like I said, I think the important thing, at least in my consideration of it, is understanding what is state mandated versus what's our discretion. That way we
Right.
can make informed decisions.
Yeah, as I said, it looks like only major developments are state mandated. But
Got
I
it.
will confirm that with Bob Brightly.
Okay, do we have any correspondence, Anthony?
No, I don't have any correspondence. No.
And then next is unfinished business. Okay, and then new business, I think we do have one item for new business from the chief. If he's still on here, he'd like to talk to us about
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. Hi.
Okay.
So we have another request regarding the American Water Company work that they've been doing on the water lines in town over the last 2 years. They're ready to begin to move up Mendham Road from about Tower Mountain Road to the border with Mendham Borough. It's going to be a big construction job, similar to what they did on the other side last year on Bernardsville Road. If you had an opportunity to drive from Bernardsville to Mendham down towards Route 24, it's that type of work. The company that's been doing the work in Bernardsville recently is the same company. CRJ is the contractor, so they're familiar with the water company. They're familiar with Bernardsville, and they're supposed to start this project on February 3rd. The question is, they want to do this during the day. It's less expensive. It's easier for them for deliveries and getting their resources to and from the scene. The county has proposed with the engineering people, detour routes that have been proposed. The maps were only distributed to me today, but they look fine. The question from them is does the council want this work done at night? I don't think anybody really wants to do it at night, but they wanted to run it by you to make sure that you didn't want this work done during the evening hours.
What were the streets again?
Well, it's Mendham Road from about Tower Mountain all the way up to the border with Mendham Borough, up by County Line Road. So I believe it's 525 that goes up.
And how long is it going to last, Chief?
It's going to be a couple of weeks. You know, I wasn't involved in the meetings, and I'm only kind of punting for you tonight to get this on the agenda. It's a pretty big job. So, you know, it could be 3 weeks, could be a month. Depends how quickly they move along. You know, they're not opening the whole thing at once, right? They're doing it in pieces as they move up the road from where they start. I'm not exactly sure where they're starting, what their starting point is either. So the residents will be able to get in from the north and the south up until the point where there'll be a hard closure in the immediate work zone. And then they'll work with the local residents to get access to their driveways if they need them. They've been very good about that in the past. Really, I'm sorry. It's really up to you if you prefer that the work be done tonight. We do go through residential areas, you know, so I don't think that's preferable, but it's really up to you.
Chief, do you have a recommendation?
I don't see why it can't be done during the day. It's going to be inconvenient to some extent, you know, but the detour routes are sound. They're on the county road. It's going to be primarily Claremont Road, you know, Mendham Road, the lower Mendham Road from Anderson Hill to Claremont, and then up Claremont to either Ballantyne or up to Turnbull. You know, that's going to be the primary routes that I saw proposed on the maps today. And there's some alternatives to get cars around. You can use, you know, Mendham Road or Lloyd Road. You can use Hardscrabble Road, but I don't believe that those are the detoured routes. Only local people, I think, who know their way around would be the ones using that.
What do you think would be the least disruptive plan day or night?
Well, it depends if you want to sleep at night or not.
Yeah.
I would say day. You
Yeah,
gotta do
on
day.
the road, I don't think you're going to want the truck traffic and the noise and all that going on
At night.
No.
at night.
That pretty much answers the question then, doesn't it?
And
During
Chief,
the day,
Chief, the work's going to be from Tower Mountain to the county line, you say, on Mendham Road?
that's my understanding, yes.
Well, you know, it's just a point of exasperation. Didn't you just pave that like a year ago?
The county paved it, I believe, in
Recently.
2019. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but they have to do this. They're on a deadline to do this, unfortunately. So they'll be responsible for repairing the road. But I don't have the details on that.
Oh, I know. I'm just exasperated. I can't coordinate it better. But
Yeah.
carry on.
Same stuff they did on Sini but what if, so the roads are going to close completely, Chief?
Well,
Or will they
it'll
keep
be
it open like they did on 202?
It really depends on, you know, where the water line runs exactly. And again, I haven't been in the pre-construction meetings. Lieutenant Remy and John McDowell have been attending those meetings. But, you know, there's points where they'll be in the middle of the road. There's points where they'll be crossing the street. You know, it's, you know, the detour routes are in place. So it's kind of a day-by-day thing, but there'll be a closure at the beginning of the detour for anybody but local traffic, meaning residents who have to get up to the point of construction. Will there be days when they might be able to alternate traffic through the work zone? Maybe. And will there be days when it'll be a total closure? Probably. But exactly when, what days, I don't have that information. A lot of it depends on the progress that they make as they go through.
I don't know. I mean, do they have a plan, or will they have a plan? I mean, I feel
Well, they
bad
do
for
have
the
a plan. I
residents
don't have
that are
the
over there.
details for you. I'm sorry.
No, I mean,
I was just asked to bring up tonight as to whether or not you felt strongly that you preferred that this work be done at night so they could make the appropriate modifications to their.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing from you, Chief. Look, it's going to be done efficiently during the day. And I going through residential areas, I see the challenge of noise. So if we can do it efficiently during the day, that's where I would go.
I agree.
Okay, Jack, I don't think we need a vote or anything on this. I think I'll just advise them that they can proceed with their plans to do the work during the day.
Yeah, I think the consensus of the council is clear. And Anthony, include that in the minutes, and that's sufficient. I agree.
Okay, so there's, while we're on this topic, there is the Meeker Road job will be beginning, I believe, on February 8th, I believe. That'll be closed for a number of weeks as they do some work over there on the bridge on Meeker Road. There'll be detours in place there. And then we'll have the work going on at Mendham Road. And then I think on June 1st, I think the Mount Airy Road project is scheduled to start unless they move that up or move it back. So we'll have some construction going on this spring and this summer in town. And we'll try to put everything on our website and our Facebook page as far as information about the traffic diversion plans that are in place.
When in February is the Meeker Road work?
Scheduled for February 8th is what I was told today.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think that's probably discussed in more detail in Public Works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
The only last item relates back to the library. They're planning on an event that they asked me to inform the public and the council about, which is Read Across Bernardsville Day. The event, we would all be invited to this day, and it's 15 minutes where we would read. This day is going to be March 1st, the celebration. So she just wanted to invite the library board of trustees and the library director wanted to invite us to participate in that. So it's Read Across Bernardsville, and details will be forthcoming very soon. And stay tuned for that. They also have been doing a great job in keeping our community kind of connected in some way, even though we're going through this, no school, on and off school and stuff like that. So we have a great resource in them, and I just want to thank them again. Any other new business?
No,
Okay,
I think
then.
I'll bring up at the, for the handovers for liaisons, I'll send a note to Ralph and Anthony.
Yeah, I think that would be a great,
especially for new
best
people. I mean,
practice or policy. Yeah.
okay, I'll send a note.
Okay, so we have one more open session, right? So is there anyone from the public wishing to be heard? Same instructions as before. You're limited to 3 minutes. Any hands? Any high fives? Zoom high fives? I see none. So we can move to closed session. I move to adjourn to an executive session to consider personal matters and property acquisition. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call or just all in favor? Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
We
Okay.
will be coming out back
okay.
into, yeah.
we will be coming out for a decision, an adjournment. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.